my clients, we want to be able to eat the rainbow. We want to have as many colorful foods as possible so that we get all of those different varieties of nutrients. And so I think it's amazing to be able to think of feasting as something that
Hello and welcome to Holistic Circle Podcast, Spiritual Conversation. My name is Philipp Kobald. We are reaching out to people who are passionate about spreading light, love, and joy. And I'm very happy to have here today with me, Britt Brandon. Hello and welcome, Britt.
hello, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I usually ask where people are located. I forgot to ask you.
So I'm in North Carolina of the US. Yep, yep, yep.
Always the free, right? It's North Carolina, it's Florida, and one more. And all my podcast people are coming from these three states.
What a ride. Yeah. So I'm in North Carolina now, and we moved here 4 years ago from Florida. I was born and raised in Florida. So what a riot. I got two out of the three.
Forgot the fact. All right. Okay. Let me just quick say to our viewers, please, we welcome your comments. We engage with us. A lot of space down there on YouTube. Write as much as you wish, and I'll get back to you. We'll get back to you. Please be part of the conversation. We appreciate it. All right, Britt. I always love to start with giving my guests a small couple of minutes to introduce themselves so people understand your background, what you've been doing, even if you're a heavy published author, but still there are some people out there who might not know you. So please give us a moment.
Thank you so much. So I am a published author, and I am very excited. So I have 23 health books that they're all in different areas of health. So some are nutrition, some are in fitness, some are in special ingredients, unique ingredients. And so I actually have a new book that's coming out, and it's called She Rises and Thrives. And this one is specifically for women in recovery. And we use a combination of faith, food, fitness, fun, fellowship, and sleep in order to optimize our lives and love our lives in recovery. So it's based on my own experience, and then also on my experience as a health coach for the past 22 years, working with over 10,000 people worldwide. So it was a really fun book to make, and I'm excited to launch it out into the world.
And it always shows if I have very cool guests who just bring new books out, published books, but then they come here to podcast and talk about subjects that are not book related. Then I know that I have extra cool guests.
I'm glad.
Come on, it's amazing. It's not all about promotion. We also care about a couple of things. And I think you and me agreed to talk about stuff that's both to our very close to our hearts.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
can't wait to get it going.
I know. I just like I was telling you, I have been thinking about this, and it has been so there have been so many things that have come to, whether it was like a situation or a conversation, and it's been like, "Oh my goodness, this fully supports exactly what I was thinking about." Because when we were even just discussing it a little bit in the beginning when we were talking about the topic to start with, it was interesting to see like where could it go.
So a lot of people might ask now, hey, this is a spiritual podcast conversation. Why he's talking about food? People who know me see I always have an angle. But the ones who first time listening is like, am I at the right place? Where are the angels? Where are the crystals?
Huh?
But I think that food is throughout history a crucial element of almost every spiritual ritual, spiritual communities. They always define themselves with food. Is it feasting and. So food is very elementary connected, and the celebration of food and the rituals of food of almost all spiritual tradition that we know about. Of course, it's clear to look at this modern world, and let's start, if it's okay from you, at the right now and here, how people express themselves through food, obsess themselves with food, loneliness in food, community in food. Let's look at where we are. Give us from your vast experience, 10,000 people. Give us a little bit of a rundown. Where are we with food?
Fractured. So if there was one thing that so food has instead of being this joyous thing that we share and that has meaning for the people who that meaning holds true, that there's still if you come to my home, my kitchen is alive. I've got 3 kids who are constantly eating from the morning from the second we wake up to the end of the day. We have chairs in the kitchen because we're always there. Everybody's always talking and laughing. My mom was just here yesterday and she was like, "Oh my gosh, this is such fun just to be able everybody's cooking and eating." And so there's that experience where it's just it brings you joy and it's like you're connecting. And then there is a very fractured piece where I feel like the connection is not there. People are eating by themselves and they're eating with shame and guilt. And I think even the way that society is set up right now where it's like it's just it's we're in danger when we're not having that connection. We're in danger of having a very unhealthy relationship with food.
and a lot of other things. But in food, it expresses so extremely well, right?
Yes.
Because we are all we're too fat or too thin, or
Every
we are too much sugar, too little sugar. We are animal harm or not enough harm, or we're not hunting our own food, which would be great and okay, or not no meat at all would be okay, or it's just a lot of stuff going on. And as you and me say, where's the fun? Where's the family? Where's
Exactly. And I actually was talking to a client last week, and she and I struggle with eating by ourselves because it's like it doesn't have the same ritual kind of feeling. Like when I sit down with my kids, we make the table and and everybody brings a dish. Like that's how I'm sure every family has something different, but so like last night, like I was on the grill, so I was making the grilled chicken. My oldest daughter had a brand new recipe that she wanted to make that was like smashed potatoes with all of these scallions and she had like and so everybody had something different that they were in charge of. And so when we came together, it was like everybody contributed something. So it was fun and it was like it felt like everybody contributed. And so there's something magical in that. It makes it so that it feels like you're giving to the people who you're sitting with. Do you know what I mean? Rather than yeah, there's just so much lost in and don't get me wrong, we have pizza nights where we will order pizza and have fun and you do things that way where we didn't make the dough and we did but at the same time, we really do cherish those moments that there's like a whole family element. And I will say, when I am by myself and I am eating like by myself, I will say grace and things like that, but it's very different than when I sit with other people and have that kind of like fun element with my food.
absolute? Of course, people who live alone, they they are they have Netflix or as a best friend, and most probably it's okay, and that's not the point I think that you and me making. We're not judging if people live alone, they live alone. What can be done? This is not it's not the point I think that you're trying me to get across. You and me, I think, are sad that passion, love, joy of creating and making time for it, that this is a little bit fading away. And I can see a lot of people see food more like a fuel, more like they're talking about nutrients, they're talking about proteins, and they're talking about 300 grams of this and that. And it's super valuable. And of course, if you have to take care of your diet, this is part of it, right? But it's not part of love.
And it's a slippery slope. So as somebody who prescribes those right? I am very big on that we have a certain number of grams that we need to be shooting for protein every day in order to be able to help our bodies thrive. And I do think it is so important. We were talking about this a little bit when we were talking about vegetables, how you were talking about get to know the person who grew those vegetables. Like it's so incredible to have that relationship. So I don't get to have that but I get to have the element in my home with those vegetables, working with those vegetables. So I think to your point about whether you're living alone or in a large community or whatever, it's like finding the love and joy in food wherever you can. Yeah.
The love and joy wherever you can. That's the thing. If you just take the food and just take the nutrition and just take the proteins and you just give away the love, the fun, and the pleasure, and the touching, right? Where you just take, okay, everybody can have a busy day and take processed food and things like that, and put a pizza in the microwave. It's okay from time to time, but if you start missing the spiritual element, the touching of the food, the making the dough, right? This is a spiritual activity by the end of the day. It's a transformation.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's so much into it. And I love that you say it's fine every once in a while because there has to be that balance. There's not going to be life is all about change and surprise and days are not always going to be the same or consistent or what you plan. We all know that there's you we make our what is that saying? We make plans and God laughs because we don't know what a day holds. So um I think it's important not to get too sucked into having numbers rule your life or anything about, anything about food that's going to take away the joy. Because I will say too, I have clients who, as much as they have a goal and it is helpful to track what they're eating and make sure that they're eating the certain amount of this or that and whatnot. Tracking fatigue is a thing because you do lose the joy element by having a chicken breast be numbers instead of a chicken breast that tastes amazing and was prepared by people you love and is being enjoyed with people you love, it can make it into a very dry experience.
Yeah, you mentioned now religion a couple of times and things like that. It's one of the elements that I'm worried about is that a lot of people have lost faith, whatever faith it is, and now they're desperately trying to make it up as they go along. And one of the obsessive object of negative faith is food, right?
Huh.
When it becomes like an alternative religion, that is one of my worries that I have.
So how do you see that played out? Like how it what would you use as an example?
Well, exactly when people get obsessed with certain, if it's veganism to the extreme or this to the extreme, when they starting to become almost like revolutionary, obsessed when they block out, when they treasure kids with them, and they cut themselves from friends or from parties where there might be meat and they cannot deal with it and things like that. It becomes like a kind of religious cult. It's like a cult activity. I've seen it so many times. And that's exactly where I see the toxic part of religion versus the healing and healthy part of religion, as you just pointed out, it's community and friendship.
Yeah. Isn't that wild that that there are those parallels that you can either be, exclusion, right? Where it's us and them, where just like you were saying, how it's like, because I have had like a she comes to mind when we're talking about this, but a vegan friend who and I have tons of vegan clients and vegan friends. I think it's fantastic. But there is an us them mentality that I think is toxic when you take it to an extreme. And I definitely agree that it's more harm and I do think that there are some people who wear it as a badge of honor as like, that it's something challenging that they feel proud to belong to a group, which I think is great, but at the same time, to have there has to be a whether it's your identity or not, I think, is when things can get a little it's sad when you can't be friends with people because of what your eating preferences are.
I see a huge similarity between good and bad religion versus good and bad food behavior. I personally see a lot of similarities. And I remember back my time as altar boys when we had the lessons about the people who sitting in the first row in the church and singing the loudest and pretending the loudest and remember versus the one who are humble in the back and the true believers who don't shout, who just are happy with their faith, versus usually the ones who are terrorizing others because they lack the real inner conviction.
Absolutely. That it's yes, exactly. And I think that that is even there's a powerful thing too in food that I feel like control is a very prevalent issue that comes out sideways. I was actually just speaking with somebody yesterday about eating disorders are such a big deal, especially in younger kids. And so I have 3 children. I have an 18 and 16-year-old daughter, and then I have a 13-year-old son. And so with the girls, especially, my concern was making sure that they had healthy relationships with food. Well, how do you do that? And so there's especially when you're talking to kids who have their own minds, and if I tell them, "Don't touch this," they're gonna be like, "Hmm." Why and what's going to happen. So we have to have that. We have to have a healthy perspective on food that isn't so much about control, like back to being able to have a little bit of flexibility. But when you have an element of control, it also gets to be a very unhealthy, slippery slope because you're dealing with no bad and good, and then and I think there's so much that can be appreciated in moderation, just like you said. Like sometimes you're going to be having to, whether it's a pizza or whatnot, and it's going to be out of your norm, and you may not feel great after eating it. But the whole thing is we have to have that inclusion and not to the excess where we're talking about exclusion of a whole.
Now, let us be brave because let us go a level deeper, if it's okay with you, before we take it a bit lighter towards the end. Because I had a very interesting podcast a couple of days ago. Maybe that's the best way to start. And this woman is clairvoyant and she's talking to animals and all of it interesting. And she talked a lot about there is a baby seal and there's orca, and she can read those energies and so forth. And she tried to explain how it is for a baby seal being eaten by an orca. And she explained to me that the baby seal don't see it in our way, like he's a victim and he's just food. For him, he's dissolving into the orca and he's becoming one with the orca. He's becoming part of orca energy in this transformation of eating process. And the orca itself is not seeing it as a victim of something to grab. It's incorporating,
Okay.
absorbing it. And now we're thinking about the Christian concept of the food and the bread and the wine and the things like this. And and let's go deeper and analyze the concept of don't have to go to cannibalism. That's maybe too far for today. But let's think about this ancient religions where people so much more were aware that when you take food into you, how it changes and transforms you. What would you say to all of these thoughts?
I think we've gotten to we almost have too much science to keep us grounded in that this is my body, the whatever the whatever your religion might be. Obviously, I'm speaking from a biblical perspective, but with respect to food being seen as something that's going to be nourishing our bodies, how you were talking about people see it as fuel. I think that's how the average person sees food now. And I definitely agree that we have gotten away from having something that I mean, transforming to the point where it would either improve health or degrade it, maybe to that extent. But I don't think that we are anywhere near how, people used to see food and how, it was definitely deemed as anything like that seal analogy where we're going to be consuming something and it becomes a part of who we are, like our woven patchwork kind of self.
The reason I told this story because I wanted to bring a link to how you started this podcast. You in the kitchen as a family touching, one is making this and one is making that.
Mhm.
And when we see this love and this happening and working on the dough and touching the vegetable as we talked about it, and then incorporating into us, it is a whole
The experience, I think, is there, and I think there's something, like I said, when you have that component, and just like you said, it doesn't have to be that you have to be around a ton of people. Even if you're by yourself, you can have that experience be magical, whether you love sautéing and being experimenting with all kinds of amazing ingredients and trying new things. Like, there was a long time ago, I was writing a cookbook, and I tried adding red peppers into a smoothie, and it was so funny because everybody was like, it's so overpowering." And so we learned if you add red pepper to anything, it is automatically red pepper. There's no going back. But it was so fun because it was like we were experiencing it all together, and so that's what I think. I think food needs to be an experience, and I think that that's lost so much here in the United States. We have drive-throughs everywhere, so there's everybody is takeout, fast delivery, like fast food, fast food, fast food, and so I think we are losing an element of deliciousness, whether it's in how the food tastes or what the experience is or what the connection is. And so I think that's being lost. And I back to your point about you take it in and it becomes a part of who you are. I think that is being so lost. And so the importance and the of it being actual sustenance. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to just be fuel or garbage where it's black or white, but it definitely has to be nourishment. You want it to be something that nourishes your soul, not just your
Uh,
body. Yeah.
uh, that's exactly the point I was trying to make with you. That, as you said, you item nourish your body, and you take very fresh vegetables and good things, and as you said, proteins and vitamins, and it's so. And there's the love nourishment, that incorporation of activity and so forth. And you can have one or the other, or you can have both. But it's a good starting point, because if we look at any food in front of us and think it becomes our baby seal,
Yeah.
I guess a lot of things would be a lot of different if that's how we start our meal, thinking that this now becomes part of us.
That double cheeseburger with fries and a soda is definitely not.
I don't know if that's how I feel. I'm one of those guys who, when I have low days and I had a bad day and things didn't go my way and I feel bad outside, I want to feel bad inside from time to time, and I think it's okay.
And see, and so that might be, I think but see, but you having that conscious decision is very different than having a knee-jerk reaction of just, "This is what we're gonna do." Do you know what I mean? Because I think that sometimes, and trust me, I have been, the soccer mom that is there's just no time. So I totally understand, just to your point, that it's fine every once in a while. It's not like it's going to I was just talking to somebody today, he was he was joking that he feels like he has a great foundation. So if he were to divulge for one meal, it's not going to make or break anything. And so I think that's another thing, is that we have a relationship with food that can sometimes be the comfort that we're looking for, but that it goes too far. So what do you think about that when we have disordered eating, but it's like that food becomes just like you were talking about, where it's almost like you worship food. It's like, where do you think that stems from? Then it's like that food is actually what you seek to.
I wish I have answer to everything, but I'm just a
Yes.
humble podcaster. I
I
really
was
have,
hoping you had the answer.
it feels like sometimes
Well, then I'll just wait. Whenever it comes to you, you let me know.
I'm lucky that I did, or lucky in the sense that in my surrounding, I never had a person with food disorder around me closely, so I could have observed or anything. I have lucky in that sense, no experience. But
Yeah.
where I do have a lot of experiences with, because I'm a vegetarian and a lot of my friends are vegetarian, and many of them are, some are vegans and so forth, and some are obsessive meat eaters, and so I do have a lot of experience with mothers or families pushing things on kids. So, would you like to start a little bit with the subject of children from your own experience? Let's start there. What's the
What?
right way to bring kids healthy, conscious, good food education? What would you say?
So I feel like I had awesome success with my kids being open to foods, which I think that needs to be the focus. So as long as our kids are open-minded when it comes to food. So we were never allowed to nobody is allowed to call food gross, disgusting. Those words are not allowed to be used about. And I feel like what because I exposed my kids to everything and they got to see not only we've gotten to see taste buds evolve, which has been cool because they have also learned just because I didn't like something a couple years ago doesn't mean that I don't like it now. There's you grow up and so do your taste buds. That's what I like to say. So there's definitely been an open mindset about food when it comes to eating in our home. And then also in terms of trying to make sure that they eat for health, that has been my priority. So I try to do whole foods. And so whether that's meat, whether that's vegetables, whether that's fruits, I say we want to eat foods that we can identify. So if you have a cheesy poo for a potato chip, you don't know how that was made. You don't know where that was from. But an apple or so that has been my approach. I have 2 of my kids came out of the womb not liking meat. And so that has been an acquired taste over time that they've just it was never forced upon them, but they just over time started to eat more meat. They still do not like they're not like I'm gonna eat a steak or, anything like that, but they'll have some sometimes. So I think everybody just exposing them to options is awesome because everybody has their own they gravitate towards different things. But I do think it's sad when we limit kids so that they don't have the opportunity to experience and make decisions for themselves or just even have the experience at all.
It's,
Yeah.
this is one of our points, right? That we desperately want to get across to people.
'Cause I definitely agree with you for the example that you had provided about, being at a birthday party and not being the child not being able to, enjoy the cake because there was
Some eggs inside.
right. Oh, yeah, and so there and even now, I feel like everybody tries so hard to make sure that there is that inclusivity. So whether it's allergies, peanut allergies, there's so many allergies now. And so everybody is we're gonna make it a vegan cake. No, to try to make it as possible for everybody. But if there's one person who's no, we don't eat that. And then it is sad that that a little kid feels like he's different just
That's the point, right?
yeah, yeah.
The point I made last time, as you remember, is exactly this point. Parents should just really think if my grown up decision, my grown up beliefs, that's all right. And I can make choices to surround myself with friends and this and that, and I can make all these choices. Okay, if I send my kid to a vegan kindergarten and make sure that she only plays with vegan friends and is in a vegan community, and the question will never arise. It's not a question.
Mhm.
But if I send my kid to a regular kindergarten, regular daycare, and I have a mixed bunch of people there, and is it mixed religions, mixed foods, mixed ever, I would take a hard look in the mirror. Do I want her to be experiencing community, friendship, just playing around simple and nicely and just taking in their mouth whatever comes along, being part? Or why is it so super necessary to cut her out of this community and make her an outsider, a stranger, a weirdo? Is it a good idea? Yes or no? And what do I do on a
On a
lifelong
lifelong
perspective? And that's
perspective,
why
and
I'm
that's why I'm
talking to
talking to
you about food disorder.
Mhm.
What do I instill in that kid? And I have a friend who's pushing all of this. And when we go somewhere with there and the mother is going to the bathroom, that kid is jumping on bread. Like, what good do you do to that kid to not just give her every day a slice of white bread? It's not going to die. It's a healthy kid, and kid burn all the energy. It's no problem.
Yeah.
food disorder.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, it's because it becomes that red button. It becomes that don't touch that. And then it's delicious and it sends off all of these. So that's the other thing too, is we're up against process. So I have what I tell my clients is when you're up against hormones, I deal with a lot of hormonal imbalances or issues and focuses in my work. And so one of the things that I try to encourage clients to do is we want to try to balance our hormones, whether it's through fitness, whether it's through eating. So there's a number of sleep is a big one. But so we want to be able to try to minimize any kind of hormonal chaos because when we're up against hormones, it's a losing battle. So much like when we have bread, when we have anything that's going to break down into sugar, it lights up in our brain very differently than any other food. So when you are telling a child like don't have that and that off limit food is something that sparks their brain like cocaine, it's definitely going to be there's the forbidden element, there's the jazzed up element. There's so much that's going on there that it's the perfect recipe for disaster and long term unhealthy relationships because it's the forbidden fruit that literally is like everything amazing. And so that's where I definitely see in clients who have like shame and guilt around their eating, and it stems from that they were not allowed to have when they were little, that they had to hide, and that they would eat to excess because they didn't know when they were gonna have it again.
And it again and again brings us between good and bad religion over and over and over again. Either you believe in friendship and love, and you are happy to believe. And of course, you will tell your kids, I'm a happy believer, and this is what makes me happy. And of course, you will take the kids along. But there is a line, and you said, my kids try everything. My kids could see all of it, and they will naturally find the right place because you
Oh,
trust that
yeah,
you know what's right and you have a full knowledge and 23 books, and you know what's right. And you know that they will find what's right once they can make conscious choices, right?
yep, absolutely, absolutely, yes, and if you also add in information, because I think there's first of all, there's the monkey see, monkey do, right? So we tell our children so much through our behavior, not through what we're saying, but what we do. So if I was constantly talking about fruits and vegetables, but I was eating everything but, my kids would see that incongruency and be like, "She doesn't know what she's talking about. So why am I gonna listen to her?" But at the same time, if my kids see me full of energy and laughing and loving food and eating food that makes me feel good, that I think is delicious and is also nutritious, and I'm sharing it with them and I'm having a great time, they're gonna grow up thinking that food is equals like energy, laughter, fun, tastes good, feels good. So there's all of that that kind of comes together that we have to lead by example too. Do you know what I mean? So it's we can't
Absolutely.
just yeah. So it's a lot.
A- And it's so interesting because there are two people sitting here agreeing on a lot of things. And of course, you have that great nutritional knowledge, and this is your starting point. And we all have a starting point, right? And then you come to community and cooking together and celebrating and enjoying. And I'm much more and less as a nutrition guy and less as, but I believe a lot in inviting friends, making dinner evenings, dinner
Yeah.
parties. That's my world. And of course, my daughter from early age must or should help if she wants. There's no must. I said a word must, but it's a wrong word. If she likes it, to help setting up the table, having the excitement when friends are coming, saying hello at the door, and then putting the food there, and this is for me the number one, the nutritious and the healthy part. I'm vegetarian, so this comes second.
Mhm.
So, but we both end at the same
Right?
point.
Right. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, about the joy and about the love and about yes, and that I think if you don't lose sight of the joy and the love, I think the joy and the love keeps you on track to making healthy decisions. Do you know what I mean? Because if you
Yes.
have joy and love, you don't have that secrecy and that guilt and that shame attached with the food. You can't have joy and love and guilt and shame in the same space.
And because this is a spiritual podcast, let's open one more subject and then we're all tying it together. One super important element, and I need your advice and knowledge on it, because spirituality does not exist without the word feasting. It is crucial in any spiritual practice that there's elements and thoughts and conscious. Can you a little bit from modern science and from what you have to share on people who are spiritual watching now and make them motivated to go for another round of feasting?
Yeah. So I think in terms of even being I am trying to encourage clients all the time and friends and family. We need to be enjoying our food. So first of all, I will say when you hear the word feasting, you think of out of control, right? That's what I think of almost like feasting being excessive. That's what I say. Excessive, not out of control, but to excess. And I think it doesn't have to be that way. You think of feasting and I think of a luxurious like buffet or something where it's going to have all different kinds of foods and flavors and just like I said, like when everybody comes to the table and has their contribution. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like a little bit of everything to keep that variety. And that's another thing that I try to tell my clients. We want to be able to eat the rainbow. We want to have as many colorful foods as possible so that we get all of those different varieties of nutrients. And so I think it's amazing to be able to think of feasting as something that we have to have in our daily lives because instead of it being an all day feasting, I think we need to come back to the times where the focus was on having one or two meals that were really, really robust and flavorful instead of having all of these meals throughout the day where there's nothing, no thought, no feeling, no emotion, no importance, no joy, no love. And instead, have those times that you share with other people and that you share amazing food that took some time and really tasted amazing or, whatever the case might be.
And now we talk about fasting.
Yes.
You know?
'Cause you can't and then so this is the other thing that I love about the feasting is because the duality. So we have 'cause I tell all the time, you have to have there's the feasting window and the fasting window because you have to have your body needs a break. And so that's the beauty of a long, long time ago, centuries for centuries and centuries, we've had all of these eating principles that were based on fasting, where we would give our bodies a break. We would give our brain a break from having to be focused on food and focused and preoccupied, and instead get to focus on everything else. Even our bodies got a break from having to digest constantly. And so now we get to have these beautiful separated windows where when we give our body a break from the with the fasting window, we come back and we enjoy our food. We look forward to it because we missed it. Our bodies look forward to it. And so I think it makes the whole eating experience so much more magical and it more as it should be.
There's the one thing that I'm sad about that the world is getting out of religion is I miss that the rituals of food, the Christmas time with the certain foods and certain things, and is it the pumpkin stuff? Is it this? Something still left. But if we look at Central Europe for the Catholic world, there were clear feasting times. There were times where you eat fish, times where you eat that. The
Right.
whole year had a meaning. Food was not available all year long. They had a season for strawberries, a
Yes.
season for things, and it was also incorporated
Incorporated
into
into
religious
religious
activities,
activities,
Eastern with the
Eastern with the
eggs and
eggs
the
and the
things.
thing.
You know what? I'm old fashioned in that sense. I fight so hard to buy food in the season and do not try to buy it out of season because I want to have, as you said, feasting and fasting.
Mhm.
I will, now it's strawberry time and then I can eat every day as eat strawberries. And then no, that's the magic. The no.
That is magic. That is magic. Imagine like abstaining from strawberries for a full season and then you get
Yes.
them back and it's amazing and
It's
delicious and delightful. Yes.
craving
Yes.
comes from limitation.
Absolutely.
And pleasure
Yep.
comes from limitation.
That's right. And the beautiful balance is so when it gets out of whack, that's when we have issues. Do you know what I mean? Just like you were talking about with the religion, it's like the extremes and the polarities and all of and when you have things that are absent with the where the joy and the love are absent, that's where the dysfunction and the negatives arise.
And from a spiritual perspective, again, it's so vital. A year now, our new year, where everything is in supermarket all the time and everything is allowed or forbidden all the time. It is just
Yes, monotonous. Yes.
life is hell because it has no beginning, ending, season. It's spring, it's spring, it's autumn.
Yep.
It's now we're feasting, now we're fasting, now we're having strawberries, now we don't. And the year becomes smaller again, and now we can start touch it. We cannot touch 356 days. We cannot touch them. But we can touch 2 weeks. We can touch 3 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's so true. I mean, back to just to even put it in perspective. So we just had snow here and so everybody is like it is very late for snow and everybody is very ready for spring. And so we are still like wearing turtlenecks and everybody is still bound up and chilly. And so but we're so looking forward to spring. So where I am from in Florida, we have one season all year long. There is no seasons. There's no it's beautiful all the time, which is great, but you get sick of beautiful all the time. And so that's the thing. We moved up here and we were like, "Oh my gosh, during the fall, like there's colors, like you've never seen colors, like the leaves changing to these incredibly fluorescent yellows and oranges." And so the same thing is with food. When you're eating food that's in season, it tastes it tastes the way food is supposed to be. And so I think that's another thing is that we here in America, we have GMO foods that are just constantly year available year round. But I will have friends who live in other countries right now who tell me like so whatever is in season and they'll be like it's amazing right now. And it's see we don't get the amazing because it's available all year round.
But you know what? I think you can do a lot to break that circle. I'm not the one to give advice. You are the one with that.
No,
You
absolutely. You can buy local. You can buy local and you can buy
even if you have the smallest apartment in the world, you could grow one tomato plant
yeah.
when it's time and see the miracle of it happening. And even if it's only 3 tomatoes, but to take them fresh and cut, put salt on it, you can make the miracle if you're looking for the miracle.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I know that you know that I'm a great believer of knowing your producers, knowing farmers if you have the privilege. And for my education with my daughter, it's vitally important that we visit regularly farms, that we see where is it made, how is it made, buying it there, bringing it home like a treasure trophy. And 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 even if happens every 1 or 2 years, or it doesn't matter. But kids need to be connected to the food production. That for me is as important as understanding vitamins and proteins, is to understand the people behind and the process and the hardship. And even growing at home a couple of tomatoes gives kids some understanding of the work behind.
Yeah. Absolutely. And even though we just had snow, my kids cut a mango last night, and so we got to keep the seed. And so and it's funny that you say that because we plant our plants. My daughter actually got because you can actually grow hydroponic plants right in your own kitchen. And so we use a ton of basil, a ton. And so even having this cool thing on our countertop, even while it's snowing outside, we get to grow fresh herbs right in our kitchen.
And even if you can't do that, you can make your own little mini kimchi. You need nothing, one glass jar, any leftovers on when you make a vegetable soup, just a chopping leftovers, little bit of salt, and you get a mini fermentation happening. You can, if you want, keep the connection to food, the physical connection to food in any circumstances if it's important to you.
Abs Yep.
And that's why we have a spiritual podcast about food.
I'm absolutely in 1000% agreement. I think there's so many great things from having a good, healthy connection with food and then also fostering that with, I mean, to be able to have the gift that we have, that we get to see this amazing experience and relationship with food passed down to our kids. I think it's just it yeah, I think it's one of the amazing things as a parent that we get to enjoy is that we get to introduce them to this beautiful world of food, of things that not only nourish our bodies but nourish our souls. And it's just it's an incredible experience.
Before I let you end up this podcast, I must share something.
What?
I I told my daughter that she should read a book, and she don't like reading a book. She's 11 now. And I said, you know what? Can I instead every Thursday prepare dinner? Because she knows she can catch me with that pretty much.
Oh.
And I said, okay.
Uh-huh.
That's how they have the father around the finger.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah.
So please give us the last 10 minutes and tell us, because I know that some of the things in your new book definitely beautifully work with what we talked today, because I heard when you introduction, there were some links in understanding and consciousness and traveling with food as a person. So maybe if you want, even if you didn't plan it, can you tell us a little bit about the upcoming book in the last 10, 15 minutes, if that's okay by you?
Oh, absolutely. I would be honored. Yes, absolutely. So I am on a mission to help just hurting people who are struggling to love life. I want to be able to share what has worked for me and what has worked for my clients. And I feel like it's all about bringing things back to basics. So just really simple fundamentals about how to improve what we eat and how often we eat or how much we eat and what kind of foods we eat, how we move our bodies, how often, what kind of exercise we use. And people think of exercise as if it has to be running a marathon, and it doesn't. It can be yoga and Pilates and things that are very like low impact and help us feel good. And then faith, having, and I am not in the book, especially, I definitely say, like, I come from a Christian perspective because that's what I know, but I am not, I just want everybody to be able to have some kind of knowing that there's a higher power with their best intention at heart, and then fun and fellowship, just like we were talking about with the connection and being able to, there's something magical that happens when you do life with other people. Do you know what I mean? So whether you're being able to share burdens or share excitement and laughs and happiness, so there's just something, we're just social beings. We were designed that way. And I like to, like I said, I have 3 teenagers. So I like to be able to be with them, but I say all the time, we can go for a walk and we don't have to talk. We can just be together. And so there's something magical there too. And then sleep. I think we are in a very strange state of being when we will sacrifice sleep in order to get work done, or if something has to go, it's we can just go without sleep. And sleep is so important for our brains and our bodies and our spirits. So this book is kind of just like a conglomeration of how to heal your body, mind, and soul with a holistic approach, just with food and fitness and faith and fun and fellowship and sleep, and just made very simple with a bunch of funny stories and a little bit of interesting information to kind of support what I'm saying so that people don't think that I'm crazy. And then yeah, and then we're excited to be able to just have this book hopefully be in the hands of everybody who needs it.
It sounds like a call to light, love, and pleasure and joy. And you just want to remind people, keeping moving, keeping laughing, keeping connected. That's the whole secret to a better and more healthy life, is joy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's success begets success. So I know I'm the first of like I was homeless and hopeless with 3 children by myself and very scared. And it took these steps of you have to start somewhere, and it's one little step, one little step, one little step, but the more steps you take, the better you feel, the better your life becomes, the more resilient you are, and it's amazing how these 6 simple elements, when you start to focus on them, there's almost no way that you can not feel better and better and better. And the better you feel, the more you want to feel better. And the better you feel, the more you want to feel. So I like to call it a self-perpetuating cycle of success.
And I think this is such an important message. And when we come back to good and bad religion, it's so easy to pick. If it makes you happy, if it makes you connected, if it makes you joy and open, if you get curious, if you have a smile, it's a good religion. And when you shield yourself off on others, when the life gets smaller and the rules get harder, it most
Right?
probably not the best choice.
Right? Exactly. And it's so funny that you say that. So my son came home the other day, and so he's learning about a specific time period when there were martyrs and there were and a lot of death, and it was us, them. And he was like, "This was so long ago." And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Why is it happening again now?" And it was like, right? It's
Don't get me
and
started.
right, exactly, don't get me started. And it's so sad though, because I think you know how, like, when you can get anxiety when you're out of alignment? It's like you're not
Yes.
in alignment. Yes. So I feel like I had somebody ask me the other day, "You're Christian, you go to a Baptist church, but you're not Baptist." And I was like, my church is amazing. Like, the people there, we sing, there's the pastor is incredible. I don't care. They could say that we're Wanagongs. I don't care what it is, but the people there and the things that we're taught, and we're very inclusive, and everybody is love, and the messages that are preached are amazing. And then you talk to these other people, and there's that us them, and that's not the love that it's very
You know,
sad.
God has no job cutting back. He has your forwarding address.
Yeah, yeah.
Find you anywhere.
Exactly, and that's the thing is that it's like, why can't and so, I mean, I send everybody love. I'm like I said, I'm not here to try to change anybody's perspectives or, thoughts on religion, but I think we could use a lot more of loving everybody and less judging anybody, and just let's all do life together. Like, nobody's got this figured out just right, so let's just all love each other through it, you know?
I was so excited having you as a guest, and I knew that this would be so good because you're an authority on food and just speaking out of my heart over and over again. And I hope that so many people will listen to you. I will hope so many people will read your books because you have a message of joy and knowledge and science and joy again and nutrition and food and joy again and again and again and again. And this is so important in a world where we buying stuff in plastic, vacuumized, and it's okay. It's okay, maybe, maybe not, maybe yes. But if we forget joy,
Yeah.
the beginning and the end of this process called incorporating
Yeah,
into us, making it part of us, then what is it all good for?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Britt, you may have the last word, but I am so blessed and thankful on so many levels having you here today. It was more than I expected.
Oh, I am so grateful to have been here. I hope to be able to be back with you. This was such fun.
Anytime. Thank you, Britt, so much. And
Thank you.
everybody, links to the books and all information, please down there. Whatever you need, how to find Britt and everything, just go down here. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Britt.
Thank you.